Hey everyone, welcome back. Now today we're going to do a kit box part review, which I haven't done one of these in a while. So this is going to be for 2022 Big Rig Group Build submission. And the kit that I'm going to be working on is this Scania T143 6x2 truck, which I want to be doing this one as it's a fairly unique truck, as I mostly worked on US spec trucks and not anything European. So I could go do a little something fancy. So everything in here is still sealed, but just showing you on the box, on the decals, does show you two different versions. You can do one with the Scania Phoenix, or just do some white and silver striping along it. So nothing too overly fancy on it, but getting into it. So this is the decal sheet here, which is a fairly sizable decal sheet. Got a couple country markings, some scroll work, and a bunch of different license plates to use. And of course, speed limit restrictions. Very nice dashboard details on it. And then Scania hubcaps. So it looks pretty nice. And these here I assume are probably the mirrors. Then I'll show you the instructions later. Of course, got a strand of the Italy tires, which there's 11 of these, even though probably about only 10 of these will get used, so having an extra is fairly decent. Then going into parts, as most Italy kits, some are molded in different colors. So for instance here, got some of the bodywork in white. And then suspension and chassis parts in black, which I'll open these up to get a better look of what I may be dealing with. So here we have the rims, which are a two-piece rim, where the front half and the retaining bar is separate. And of course, and so far we get, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8 of these. But yeah, so probably 2 of these are just going to be extras. So if anything, extra stuff for the parts bin. But of course, probably for a lot of for pretty much goes for any big rig kit, you're going to have a bunch of extra parts. So if anything, it's best to take a look, see what there is, and then pluck off what you don't need. Then got some more chassis parts like wheel or the brake backs, steering knuckles, or the steering hubs, more suspension parts, wheel axles. Then what I'm thinking here a bunch of air control, and then a few other air pieces. Then what the part looks here, yeah, so pretty much a lot of it here looks pretty good. Nothing too unusual there. And then got some getting into the bodywork. Fairly nice, really nicely molding. And there's a little bit of flash in some spots, but overall it's not too bad. Definitely some nice variety of parts. I got interesting bumper, and then the side flares, and then rear fenders, and a couple other small parts here and there. Then, of course, we also have it here where the kit's a multi-piece cab, which for me, when I built the Ford LTL 9000, which was badged as an AMT kit, but originally was an Italeri kit. It's going to be, I've got a few things to do to get everything together, but it's nothing too major. So here looking at the cab pieces, fairly nicely molded, with a fair bit of detail to them as well. Then got a separate roof piece. Now the good thing is with the roof piece, is that when I get everything together, I can simply do a trick with some magnets, like what I did with my Ford, so that the roof can be removable to see the interior details, which will end up being covered up otherwise. And then a nice one-piece hood. Then what looked like an optional bumper for this kit, but I'm sure this is probably not going to be used, unless it's for something else. And then some more body pieces, like we have the cab arrow flares, which would mount onto the side. Then a really nice sun visor. So that's going to be a nice touch to the truck. Then got a raised hood scoop. And then got the dashboard, which is definitely more oriented towards using the decal, as looking here, there's absolutely no detail. So if you end up messing up with the decal, you're pretty much in a load of trouble. Then got a few things like air horns. And then not entirely sure what this piece would be. Maybe, not sure on what that would be. But I'll figure it out soon enough when I start building. And then more, and what looks like maybe an overhead console unit for the interior. And then, at first I was thinking these were windshield wipers, but they more look like outriggers. So, not sure what these would be for, but they could also be. Oh, actually, I know what those could be. Those could be bracing for the mirror. Same for right here. I think what is because I'm more used to stuff like this being chrome. Looks fairly unique having it molded in a proper color. And then moving on to more interior pieces, we got the floorboards, which is probably the best I've seen from a kit in a long time. It's got some nice texture to it, as well as Scania molded into it. Then got your bucket seats, the back of the cab, then cab floorboard. Then pretty nice detail actually on the roof molding, as it's got it's got the sun visors and then overhead storage. And then cab side window interior panels, along with the bed unit. So, yeah, that's going to be a fun kit to work on. Plenty of possibility for detail. Now moving on to second last to it, got a lot of the engine parts. Like we got the mostly built up big V8 Scania engine, which in itself is really nicely molded with plenty of detail for cooler lines and starter unit, which typically for a kit you'd end up having to build everything. So that's not bad to have the engine essentially a third of the way done, and the rest of it's just the small tedious tasks of the exhausts, the headers, and intakes. Then we got a few other parts, like got the fifth wheel plate, the seat brackets, interior panels, which are fairly nice. Then some more air filters or air filter intakes. Yeah, the engine. Yeah. So pretty much it looks a bit intimidating at first, but as there's so many parts. But I'm sure as I start getting put stuff together, it'll actually be fairly simple and mundane, which is okay. So far looking good. Now moving on to clear parts. It's got some fairly good stuff. As got the fairly large front window, which is a fairly big piece of, which is a fairly flat shaped glass, and then got side windows, and then then the door windows, then what looks like here the brake lights, tail lights, and possibly some headlight pieces. So, yeah, not sure what some of these other parts will be for. Could always be extras. So, I'm just going to, okay, so pretty much just going to put those in here so they don't get too scuffed up. Then show you a bit of the instructions in order to go through with this. Yeah, so starting off with the first page, which I like to see, is that it gives you a diagram of all the parts, and then giving you what parts aren't going to be used. Like like this black piece, like here, a couple stuff here. And of course, going to be not needing the extra wheel. Then yeah, one of the bumpers is indeed an extra part. And a few things, and a few more things here and there. I guess supposedly there's going to be other parts that were going to be used for different kits. So it's definitely going to be good. Yeah. And what's actually interesting is that the kit actually wants you to size down the frame, as in really it's not a big truck at all for being a long nose. So by the looks of it, you'd have to cut off about 12 millimeters of the frame. So that's going to be an interesting task. Probably just going to scribe it off. And then what's interesting is that reusing that same piece can use it to reinforce the chassis. So that's an interesting way to reuse stuff. So that's pretty cool. Then of course, when you get along to building, pretty much your standard assemble your frame and front suspension, which supposedly for this kit here, it has, of course, with the Ilari kits, quite a common feature is the posable steering, which is quite a nice touch. Then radiator, then pretty much sending more of the engine, like radiator supports, battery boxes, air tanks, cab supports, and fifth wheel mounting plate. Then, of course, getting the rear fenders installed, which is actually looking to be an interesting task. How they glue onto the fenders, and then mount onto the frame, which is an interesting touch. And supposedly also got a piece of black tubing, which I forgot about, which by the looks of it is supposed to help mount parts, which is a pretty interesting touch. So then moving on, got the engine, getting the wheels together, fuel tanks, then getting the interior detail done. So by the looks of it, be wanting to get the interior stuff put together first, and then glue everything onto the front half of the cab, and then put everything around it together. So in a way, it kind of jigsaws its way together, which helps to create a sturdy build. So, but quite an interesting process. Then, of course, mounting the hood, cab roof, and then the back half, and then, of course, getting the rest of the body panels on, such as the accessories and the aerodynamic supports. And of course, does give you full illustration on the decals, which I'm more leaning to using this set of decals, but instead of doing a plain boring white, what I am thinking about doing is I got this Rust-Oleum metallic purple, so I'd be having truck be purple with the red accents to give a very good, in a bit of a contrast, so it can go together quite nice, look really more like a show truck. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be, so that's pretty much everything there is on the kit itself. So, of course, pretty much going to be mainly focusing on doing this as a box stock build, but may throw in a custom accessory parts here and there, depending on if I can source some stuff out. But, yeah, otherwise it's going to be fairly straightforward build, and of course, going to be keeping try to do some more updates on this. So yeah, I think that'll be it for this video, and of course, so that's going to be it for this video, and see you next time.